Haitian airplanes. The only section of Europe that had a high value system during the Dark Ages was those on the Iberian Peninsula in the Spanish Portuguese area, southern France. And that high state of culture existed there because of Africans, known as Moors, had come there and brought it. So,
Woogie, play that shit. NBPP. I'm telling y'all, no one with a lawyer, so don't ask me. I know y'all are Moors. Just ask General Khalid. The General. Mom, I'm a Moor. And got sense enough to know I'm a Moor. And ain't gonna never argue with you that I'm not a Moor. The General said he's a Moor. NBPP. Your greed for his name fame got me skunk drunk. You never pull the trigger, just pose with the shotgun's pump. I'm waiting and hating, showing no love, but you're showing bacon. Licenses for ID at the police station. On top of that, no rights reserved on the contract. Dirty Moors finesse masters use old leaders to con cats. Show their picture but won't use their best codes. Only use the ones to bring in fiat notes from scapegoats. Requirement to raise wife. Even wore a fez at their wedding. I snicker at snitch and all black organizations begging. Walking with limbs peg-legging. Be conscious pirate. Fake freedom warners getting no ratings when I'm irate. Conscious. God never sat down with Taj Bay one-on-one. Shooting yes, he is my target. Aleem Day is my gun. All I do is crush a lot. Truth, my big pun and Fat Joe. Falling on you 50 feet below. Mike Fatso. Mark conscious coon frauds up with my firing squad. Tugging at emotions hard like pulling a squad. Larry's no professor. Show me some doctor's degree, son. Won't listen to I'm African crap until I see one. I'm not asking for much, cause I give more than I ask for. Morris MC, lay it down hot like asphalt. I won't fool though, some call me fool though. Trying to get under my skin, you must be a new bro. Old foe gets full slow, lash with the tongue strap. 100 schools wanna be gay and make a comeback. Not on my watch, slow till time stops. Left in shot cause the rhyme doc. Open up your mind block. Conscious. Look, if you want to read it, read it down in bold. The Moors can claim, written in 1887, or Arianto Bataveza. Read his book in Spanish, the Moors say, and said that evil the God was introduced by those Africans. You know, goddamn motion picture.
They call me for the artifact. To my heart collapse. I be running through the scene like I'm on a lap. The way they left them on the scene, put us on the map. So I be all up on the scene, looking hard for artists on the more artifacts, like I'm Artemis. See, I be running through the scene like I'm on a mission. The way they left us on the scene made them hard to miss us. See, I be all up on the scene, looking for my shit like red flashes, green dashes, we assassins. Triple gold, my feds high like I'm Selassie. Since the cold, your men die, we everlasting. In the cold like Northgate, winter, Alaska. Chillin' the faster, taking the jam, my mind like a disaster. Ass within the faster. If you don't represent the 13 bloodline, more by bloodline, welcome to the front line. Baby, I want mine. I'm throwing fiction, I'm cutting up in the lunch line. I call it crunch time. They trying to fight some, but I ain't no time. I'm over Charlie, I'm working overtime. Hidden treaty, 1787, time 7-11, higher than 7-7. Steady, no captain. Better summit the lesson. Who be trapped in the house? I'm all alone like Kevin. 2-7. I'm here to make my case with law and record. I shouldn't have thought of fly, no heads, necklace. I keep a peppermint on the top for the dresser. Working 7 days again, looking for that on the board artifact. Like I'm Artemis. See, I be running through the scene like I'm on a mission. The way they left us off the scene made it hard to miss us. See, I be all up on the scene looking for my shit like.
Doctrine of discovery from a grave Alexa. Always challenge jurisdiction of your captors. Stand on your square. No apron of attractions will manifest deception. Not Cleopatra. Man is man's mantra. Know that's our mantra. Get out the lower self and vibrate your chakras. Walking on the higher road of staff for all levels of Allah. If I got protected more with the sevens up. For Padre Eros steel pharaohs, exposed those Socrates and Plato's, chopped down my cherry tree and still couldn't bury me. In the secret lodges, they pretend to be me. Indiana Jones, national treasures, angels and demons, and one world agendas. Razor blade smiles, alien reptilians running from the governments with more civilians, invisible wars, police state and prison, uplifted falling from the mental prisons, 5-point sword drawn, protecting wormholes, reach to the hand, the backs of turncoats.
So the more I try to back turn like I'm Artemis. See, I be running through the scene like I'm on a mission. The way they left us off the scene made it hard to miss them. See, I be all up on the scene looking for my shit like.
But remember, when it became a time in 1766, Africans ruled land from 7 levels. We were calling ourselves Moors. S-C-U-E-R-S-N-M-O-O-R-S. From 711 to 1485.
That African king shit. Talking that African king shit. Talking that African king shit. That African king shit. Yo, talking that African king shit. Yo, talking that African king shit. Respect the queen and the royal blood.
We are not kings, we are not queens, we are not whack rappers in skinny jeans, we are all singing, we are too much. When we drop truth, they say too rough. Slow down a touch, font on our Dutch. No, you are my master or pastor, minister divine. Grand cheek sometime if more deep is their autograph on the line. Sending out wrist and chill with the sum. See us in treasures and actually from Southern Morocco. Might say Maghreb to Arabic speakers, they know what I said. They won't call me king, won't call me sire, won't call me friar, won't call me liar, won't call me lawyer or esquire. Kings come from kingdoms, not empires.
That African king shit. Yo, talking that African king shit. Yo, talking that African king shit. Respect the queen and the royal blood. Yo, that African king shit. Yo, talking that African king shit. Yo, talking that African king shit. Respect the queen and the royal blood. To the ancient moon, Marachi, I'm Marachi. We don't stop, we gotta move. We don't promise to Eddie Murphy. I joke that. All my kids, when you see the boat, coming to what I've been here, land of West. 5 points on this, coming to best. Emperor with a family crest, stay led. Ready to contract, outlaw, but we combat. So far gone. Hey, I'm a war on my line. If I was flat, man, it probably be gone. Figure that same old song. Had a more out, more with the strong. More with wisdom. Teach for a kingdom, original syndrome. Lost the best. I make some east to the west, east to the west.
Peace and love to everybody who's listening and who will listen in the future. Listen to this in the future. I am Mizraim. My left L. You are tuned into MHHS Eyes Wide Open Blog Talk Radio. Simultaneously being live streamed on Canaanland Moors 2,
That's the #2 YouTube page. Along with, these streams, I am definitely here with my brother Cujo IOL. Appreciate you more. I didn't get that.
It's a lot more. Peace.
How are you? Let's say that off the bat. Happy Holy Day.
You already know. Happy Holy Day to all the Moors worldwide. Honors to you, Ms.
Thanks. Likewise, bro. Likewise. Listen, I know we're going to get into some aspects of different current events and more so civics and civilization, what that entails in certain aspects and what it's not, how vast it is. But more, I don't know why I felt compelled to share this. I know we know this already, but I feel like it's somebody listening who might need to hear this, because I don't know, I was in Nature Knows No Color Line book, page 77, right? That's the 77 right there. So I don't know, it's just this one excerpt where it says, McGritchie is correct when he says that families with the name of Moore, M-O-O-R-E, Morris, Morrison, and other derivatives of Moore had Moors as their ancestors. I just felt like I had to read that. I don't know. I know a few people who actually have that last name. Don't get me wrong. I know we're all Moors, but I felt like I had to share that off the bat for whoever that is that needed to hear that. But we already know we all come from Moors, and that's not a secret when you read these books. They're all letting you know. Nature Knows No Color Line, Ancient and Modern Brit Times, etc. So, as a nation, as we descend as a people, and we see the variations, whether it's Murray, Al-Moroccan, American, we know there's many appellations. But Moor is a universal one. Like, no matter what language you take that into, it's describing our people, right? Copper complexion. This is known through all the languages, not describing, but identifying. And, it's the identity of a nation of people, specifically those who thought they were Negro, black, and colored. That's an etymological aspect. We know that can't be true according to the rules of the language. But, this is what identifies us. And when we spoke about or text about the aspect of civics and civilization being much more than fighting the ticket, right? Like, civilizations always leave marks in every society that we've dealt with, whether it been in Egypt, Morocco, Spain, so-called England, what we know as Britain, all these different places, we leave something. Mexico, there's mounds, pyramids, Stonehenge, all of these different things. And, people talk about, the giants roamed the earth. You only had to be considered a giant at 7 foot. I know that may sound crazy, but when people say, giants built Stonehenge, it's not like there were some, freak of nature type of people. From this type of perspective of today is how we view human beings. And I know that may sound wild, but there's an article describing the fact in the New York Times that you only had to be 7 foot to be classified as a giant. So when we talk about these civilizations, civics, and all of that, remember, there's people commonly over 7 feet today. So let's not take that to a mythical realm of what they were saying giants were, right? So Stonehenge, things of this nature, whether people want to say that's extraterrestrial. I'm just saying this conversation could get so deep when we talk about civilization to the fact that it goes beyond, arguing with policy enforcers, not that you shouldn't know civics and know how to protect yourself. All of these things are absolutely important, but the concept of civics and civilization is much deeper than that. So it could go so many places, and I feel like, and it's not a wrong thing because, the law is the law of the land, the Constitution, natural law, etc. These are things we must know, to protect ourselves. But it's like, yeah, that's civics, But civics and civilization is so much more than that, to the point that even the pyramids we were talking about and all of these structures with stones and things of this nature, right, manifest themselves on paper of what people deem have value in certain aspects. To be more specific, the so-called dollar bill, Federal Reserve note. We know that the value is gold and silver, but you see emblems of civilization even on that, right? The Great Seal. So I just wanted to start there, bro. I know there's some things you want to touch on, and the fact that, civics and civics is more so how you treat people, how you do what's right. In your dealings, personal, business, whatever, you know what I'm saying? And civilization is born from that energy. Yeah, and the Constitution is definitely included in knowing civics, but there's so many aspects of conversations when you talk about civilization, right? That's all over the planet. So yeah, more. I just wanted to start there, and if you want to add on before we go in even further, on the aspect of civics and civilization being more than just arguing with a highwayman. You know what I'm saying? Like, or whatever your perspective is on that.
Peace, more. Well, the whole thing that, because when we do these broadcasts, we don't have some week-long conversation on what we're going to talk about when it comes to Sons of Allah. Most of the time it's the day before, 2 days before, an hour before, and what was coming across my desk was there was a few instances of Moors being kidnapped in the past week or something. And then a couple of days ago, one of the Moors was at an art show. The Moor was at an art show, and he was fezzed up at the art show, and just having conversations with people at the art show, and it struck me as a pure example of activity. Because nobody's talking about this Moor at his art show, but all these people are telling me about people getting kidnapped or whatever, or people having some type of court situation, or having something to do with, quote unquote, the colonists violating them, and then they gotta write writs and they gotta da da da. And I'm looking at this Moor, and he's just living. He's just being a Moor. You know what I mean? And it brought to my attention that there has to be a discussion with regard to what does it really mean to be active. Because I don't even think that discussion is really had with Moors. It's just assumed that active means you're always fighting somebody as a Moor. Like when I think back to activity, if people put energy toward, let's say, uplifting fallen humanity being their activity, there might be more women in the movement right now, opposed to what it is. If people put more energy towards, starting a business being their activity, there might be more businesses right now that Moors are doing, which again goes in contrast to this idea of, majority of times when you talk to Moors, the activity is they went to court, they wrote a writ, they got stopped by a highwayman, they showed their national identification, and the highwayman let them go, or the highwayman kidnapped them, or the highwayman, whatever, the judge, whatever, the the landlord, whatever. It's always some type of battling, and it just struck me. It hit me so hard when I saw this Moor at his art event, and it was just a chill, serene example of, oh, there's actually levels of activity that don't even have to do with the colonists. And I think it would be a good discussion on Sons of Allah to have, even if it's people calling in to talk about what is their activity. You know, are you a good father? Are you a good mother? You know, are you a good son? Are you a good daughter? What type of things are you doing in your life that can qualify as activity that has nothing to do with these colonists? Is where my mindset was going, you know, with regard to this idea of Drew Ali making that statement of active, all Moors are active, not passive. And then you look at Drew Ali, and honors to Noble Drew Ali, by the way. You look at Noble Drew Ali, and you see that his activity with regard to courts and de facto people abusing their color of law powers, that happened near the end of his reign. Like we weren't talking about him going to court and him getting charges on him and all that stuff and him having to defend himself early on in the movement. That stuff came later, you know, which again goes back to this thing of, well, hold on a second. If Drew Ali had businesses and they had all these temples all over, what were these Moors doing during that time? Were all these Moors getting tickets and all this during that time? Were these Moors exercising their rights in the 20s, in 1910s, going into the 1920s? Were these Moors exercising their rights and having situations where they're getting kidnapped and all that, or were they being industrious as far as their activity? You know, and this goes back to some of the things that we don't have access to in this time. You know, that same thing of you know, where's the Noble Drew Ali video? Where's the Noble Drew Ali audio? You know, who were these Moors around Noble Drew Ali? What were they doing? What were their businesses? What was their activity as individual Moors, from the old Canaanite temple right up until the Moorish Science Temple of America? You know, and you know, praise Allah that Drew Ali had the insight to document everything in the Moorish Guide newspaper, that if we saw some of those ad pages in the Moorish Guide, we could see that Moors had businesses. Moors weren't just sitting around waiting for a court date. Moors weren't exercising rights and battling highwayman every day. Moors were actually living as Moors without having to deal with the element of the colonists to the degree that we might see it today. And we could even look at that being some type of agent activity of getting Moors out of circulation. You know, having Moors who aren't fully comprehending what this is about going out there, exercising things that, one, they're not really ready to be exercising yet, because, you know, we always make the statement that we're dealing with colonists, we're dealing with sorcerers, and these people don't play games like that. But then, you know, how is it that only Moors are in these issues with these people? You know, other than the criminal element, why are Moors in so many issues with highwaymen? Like, how is that? Is it due to the lack of activity in other areas? why, we see this pattern of Moors, whether they're, righteous Moors, faithful Moors, dirty Moors, whatever. How is it that the element of the colonial beings being in our business so much as Moors and not, other nations be in our business? How come we don't have all these Moors saying that, yeah, I've been dealing with, all these Arabs for the past how much ever years, and they supported my business. They gave me some finance. They, whatever it is that they did, it's always some type of, always battling, always up against the wall when it comes to Moorish nationality and birthrights. There's always some um news people talking BS about Moors. How come they're not talking positive stuff about Moors? How come every time they bring up Moors in the news, it's some sovereign citizen thing? How come it's never, oh yeah, we went to 5 Moorish businesses this week and it was a great experience and we just want to promote these Moorish businesses? Why is it always Moors in the news? They're getting kidnapped or something like that, and we're getting misclassified and mislabeled, as some fiction, which is worse than the fiction that we got ourselves out of, being Negro, black, colored. Now they're saying Moors are sovereign citizens or whatever the case is. But yeah, I don't know. I yield the floor for right now. But that's sort of where my mind was with this conversation about what is activity, what is passivity, and just having a discussion about these terms that we've read about, but really don't have a complete examples of what it means to be these things. But yeah, I yield the floor.
Facts. I mean, yeah, definitely. I would say, I definitely get it. Like, life is a lot bigger than just, a traffic ticket and whatnot, right? Like, these are misdemeanor things. I'm not downplaying it, but what I'm saying is, when we talk about activity, there's so many levels to actually get active on. Like you said, you've seen them more at the art show. Anybody who's into the Circle 7 remembers, the utility of the arts to the public, crown if thee with honor, the utility of it to the public, right? So that's a part of our culture, and it got you thinking just seeing the more with affairs at an art show. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the activity, there's many levels to it, right? So you could have an artist who's just drawing Moorish paintings. There are many of them, right? You have artists from antique times of antiquity who were painting Moors, times from colonial, inception of the Europeans here in America, painting pictures of the indigenous people to make sure that they had it correct, right? So art, or one level, is an activity that actually engages the mind to what gets you thinking so you can free yourself, right? That's one level to it. Then you have the aspect of Moors who know that the fight is on so many systemic levels where they say, you know what? All right, this license driving right to travel situation, it's a valid fight, but they might say, well, my fight is, and this is not all. I'm not painting Moors like this, but I'm just saying it's true. When you talk about activity, and I was mentioning civics and civilization, right, that another Moor might say, yo, the fight for me right now, or for this person right now, might be taxes. The other one might be, traveling. You know what I'm saying? The other one might be civics because of trying to open a business in a municipality and, you know, codes of regulations and stuff like that. There's so many levels to get active on that sometimes people, you don't see it, right? Like it might be something simple as your children play around here and this stop sign, I mean, this intersection doesn't have it's a one way, but it should have a do not enter sign there because every day, at least 100 cars come the wrong way because there's not adequate signage. When I'm saying this, I'm saying that like from real life experiences that there is so many levels to get active on. And, you know, it doesn't always have to be combative. It could come with a suggestion. It could come with mobility. It could come with the presentation of, hey, listen, just off the strength of the general public, you need a train line going from here to there and start a campaign for that. Whatever it may be, right? Like there's so many ways to make society and humanity better, like in the utility of these arts and sciences, you know, their utility to the general public even better. So, you know, I'm just saying when we talk about active, like it's so many levels to it. And it's not just one, you know, whatever it is, whether people feel like, yeah, I got to take the fight, right? Like, okay, then which one? Because there's many of them. And it don't have to be a fight. You could take the path of, you know, enlightening the mind, right? Whatever your perspective in life is, you can take that path of enlightening people. But when it comes to this movement, I do believe that, you know, there has been many people who, not all, but, you know, a lot of people who just look at it from politically active. And that's okay because that's what nationality is, right? Nationality determines the political status. So, you know, there's just so much more to do. Like, you know, and I feel like when people start tapping into themselves more, this is where we get the creativity from, right? Mm-hmm. Like, this is where we could get Moorish MC music, more by Sons, Canaanland Moore's doing the MC recording music, like good music, right? Like, that has nothing to do with, you know, another nationality. Like, that's Moorish, and that's word that comes from within, right? So, and that music is good music, so people listen to it and it makes them feel a certain way or whatever, but there's a specific audience who is always going to relate to that because we're Moors too. And Moorish music is Moorish music in this era of time. So, I mean, the activity could come in so many levels. It could come in just supporting the elderly, the youth, the people who need. You know what I'm saying? If you have it to share, then, you know, do that. But I'm just saying, I feel like it's so much more to it than just being in court. Like, because if we're civilized, like, that's probably the last place things will end up. I'll tell you this, right? When I talk about civics, activity, civilization, like my cousin, you know what I mean, has like 10 lawsuit settlements, right? And from different aspects of dealing with so-called civilization, right? Some from car repairs going wrong, you know, divorces, shit like that. And what I'm saying is all of that is civics. And him, you know, fighting his fight of being treated right. Because if you damage somebody's property, you got to repair it. You got to make them whole. And, you know, winning like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, these are regular, everyday things people go through. So, you know, when I look at active and being civically active, like, it's so many levels to it. It's so many levels to it, right? Like the other day, you know, just speaking of activity, that, like, and how many levels of activity there is, it's like infinite. And it can happen from anybody of any society, right? So the other day, maybe about 3 days ago, sister knocks on the door. It's her and her daughter, and they didn't say they were Jehovah's Witnesses. They were just talking about everlasting life, right? That was their message. But they were actively spreading their message. Is it the right message, wrong message? That's another conversation. Mm-hmm. But they were, in fact, active with trying to spread what they believe, right? So, I mean, just something back to as simple as the principle of just getting out there and coming to people's doorsteps with the message. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many levels to activity, and I just wanted to say that. So I would say that, you know, when you spoke about that and the fact that people are just taking being active just politically, yeah, that's needed, but there's still so many levels, you know what I mean? Like, what Moorish artists are going to represent, you know what I'm saying, at art tours in Paris. Like, these are also, you know, aspects of being active and getting the mind to think again, which is really the only thing that's going to free us, according to Noble Drew Ali. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's really it. So, yeah, more, I mean, I'm just saying, activity is on so many levels, right? And we just, to really be active like we need to know something about civics. We need to know about contracts. You know what I mean? And when we're dealing with these different things, even when we say we're getting money and all of this, like, there's still civic principles to be applied, right? To protect it, to protect you, you know? So, yeah, more, I just wanted to say that from the jump off of the aspect of being active. It is not just one thing. Like you said, it's not just one thing. It's the activity is needed on many levels, you know. And then you got to keep in mind, too, that you got to have the right circle to, you know, go a distance. You know what I'm saying? Like, it really, you really do, if you're talking business, right? Like, so, yeah, activity is on many levels.
Yeah, and
then let's talk about those who do not get the support, like active in the right way. You know what I mean?
right.
Like, they got the business front, all that, and still, you know, it's not supported, right? Because of whatever people's reasons are. And a lot of people have valid reasons. Things are too high for them, and, you know, certain people just don't want to come around because of the COVID or monkeypox or whatever is going on in these current days and times. So, like, there's so many different mentalities now. Like, it's like, I don't know, man, you know, but, yeah, so just stay true to you, and there's always going to be work to do. I want to say this because I've been listening more so to the 17 Keys of Success. And when you talk about being active, it says in there, Napoleon Hill, and we know all of this is ancient philosophy and whatnot, but it mentions in there that personal initiative creates work, right? Like, so you could be jobless, whatever. If you take personal initiative to do something, to commit to your economics, your finance, whatever, your currencies, whatnot, like, personal initiative creates work. So without us taking personal initiative, right, then there's going to be a lot of inactivity. There's going to be a lot of apparent laziness on the aspect of what creates work and do that work. You know what I mean? If you take personal initiative and commit to your definite major purpose. You know what I mean? Like, what is your major life purpose? And a lot of people didn't figure that out because the Constitution is for everybody. You know what I'm saying? So there's so many levels of enforcing that. You know what I mean? It talks about the arts and all of that in the Constitution. All that type of culture being protected by law, right? Like, when you look at the articles, not just the amendments. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, man, like, it's just a lot, you know. And yeah, I'll leave that there for now, more. But that's what I was thinking on that.
Peace, more.
As far as those levels to activity. You know?
Yeah. Something you said too that was profound too, is that if the claim is that we're the founders of civilization.
Call in, add on, and whatnot. The number is rolling at the bottom of the screen. on Canaanland Moore's YouTube channel. And I stated for the record, it's 563-999-3403. So yeah, I'm paying attention to that.
Islam more.
Yeah, more like.
Yeah, no, you said something earlier too that was profound that has to get brought up again. The idea of if we're the founders of civilization, then we're supposed to be civil. You know, that's just supposed to be a natural existence for us, being in the realm of civil. If we are the founders of civilization, so which made me go to the law dictionary for civil, and civil originally, this is on page 311, Black's Law 4th edition. Civil, originally pertaining or appropriate to a member of a civitas or free political community, natural or proper to a citizen, also relating to the community or to the policy and government of the citizens and subjects of a state. The word is derived from the Latin civilis, a citizen. Buyers versus Sun Savings Bank. In law, it has various significations. In contradistinction to barbarous or savage, it indicates a state of society reduced to order and regular government. In contradistinction to criminal, it indicates the private rights and remedies of men. It is also used in contradistinction to military, ecclesiastical, natural, or foreign. A prisoner's statutory obligation to pay for his keep and maintenance is civil. As to civil commotion, civil conspiracy, civil contempt, civil corporations, civil death, civil injury, civil liberty, civil obligation, civil officer, civil possession, civil remedy, civil rights, and civil war. See those titles. See also the following titles beginning with civil. And then it goes into civil action, civil bill court, civil damages, civil day, civil enforcement, civil information, civil law, civil inquest, civil liability, etc. You could go check those out. So the idea of us being civil, right? If Moors are in their proper person and they're civil, then there should be no barbarous. There should be no anything that's negative as far as law. So when we realize or when we see that we have to deal with colonial operations more than, for example, business operations, then somebody hasn't done what they're supposed to do. And who hasn't done what they're supposed to do, obviously, is us. Because as the founders of civilization, certain things shouldn't even be existing. And the only reason that they're existing is because we haven't done what we're supposed to do. We've actually been more in the passive realm than in the active realm. Going back again to this thing of, well, what is active? And when we check again, you brought up also too the paintings of Moors. Find me some ancient paintings of Moors with them dealing with a colonist, and the colonist not being in some subordinate position to them. The same way when we say in this day and time Well, find me some videos of Moors, and then everybody's pulling up videos of Moors battling highwaymen. Find me some ancient paintings of Moors dealing with the colonials, and the colonials having some superior position over the Moors. You're not going to find it. It doesn't even exist. The only way that it exists is if colonists made those paintings. But the paintings that you see of the Moors are in our palaces, we're in our jurisdictions, we're on our horses, we're selling our goods, we're selling our whatever it is that we have. And there's not this element of us being subordinate. We're always in a superior position, right? Constantly, we're in this superior position. It's a reoccurring theme when you look at the Moors in civilization, that we weren't subordinate. So there has to be some type of element, or there has to be some type of lacking on our part why this situation exists, that when we talk about being Moors, first thing people are going to talk about is court and writs and things having to do with dealing with these colonists. First thing that's going to come up. So when you talk about Moors, they're going to tell you about some case that they got. They'll tell you about some right that they tried to exercise, and the colonists didn't let them exercise the right, so now they got to defend something. They got court tomorrow. Hardly ever are you going to hear Moors in this day and time, and then they start talking about the businesses that they have, or they start talking about the school that they have, or they start talking about, something righteous that's going on. So we've strayed from being civil over the years, because even when we go back to even if we say CMB, right? The things that he was talking about in Clock of Destiny 1 and 2, and the things that he was talking about in the Zodiac Constitution, that wasn't from some subordinate position. That wasn't from some defeated position. You look at Noble Drew Ali, he wasn't talking about we're Moors from some defeated position. We were talking about us being on the come up, as they say. We weren't lacking. We were moving in the direction that the future generations are going to have something to be able to hold and use and look at as, oh wow, I want to be involved in this. Now it seems like when people look at Moors, people are like, I don't know about that. They're not Islamic, and they don't want to wear fezzes, and well, it says Allah and all this, as if that's what this is about. So there's been a big gap. There's been a huge gap in what this is and what it's supposed to be, and what it's been presented as. And it's been presented as, oh, you got a ticket? Oh yeah, you could use the Moorish thing to get out of the ticket. Oh, your license is suspended? Oh, don't worry, you don't need that license anyways, because we're sovereign and we don't. Oh, you got a foreclosure? Oh, well, you can just get out of the foreclosure by using this information to get out of it. This is where it's gone. This is where it's at presently. That even to the point of the people who are claiming that they got this and they can't get touched because they're the whatever, even they're getting kidnapped. People telling you 5K for a package, 5K for training, even they're getting kidnapped. People who are telling you, yeah, we're not Negro, black, colored, and all that stuff. You pull up their stuff and they're classified, their ethnicity is classified as black. And they're not even doing anything to change that. Their activity is not even to get to these colonists so that they can change their records for them not to be black. You see how people's priorities are effed up? You see how the priorities are out of order? And going back to that same thing, that what are you coming into this for? If you're coming into this to get out of some stuff that you got yourself into being a nigger, then your priorities are messed up. If you're telling me about, you got this package to sell or whatever like that, but you can't even have a conversation with the mother of your children, your priorities are pretty messed up. And those are the last people that you should be listening to. People with messed up priorities. Because Jwali made it clear to the Moors. Made it clear that all Moors are active, not passive. All Moors are active, not passive. And like was said earlier, the idea of being active has so many realms that we could be engaged in. But it seems like the activity is only engaged in this one place of dealing with this colonist, which is a disservice, because 80% of the time you're going to lose going against them, because they're going to use color of law against you. You're not going to win against them. The game's rigged. But it goes back to, what were you doing in the first place in order to get to this place where you're dealing with these criminals? So in checking out this the topic for today, there was a blog that came up that was talking about the active mindset versus the passive mindset, and talking about whose fault is it? Whose fault is it? When we look at the good and the bad, whose fault is it? The hard truth is that most things in your life, good and bad, are your fault. The sooner you realize that, the better things will be. Here's how to cultivate an active mindset and take control of your life. What happens when someone repeatedly says whatever it may be, is not their fault? It's not my fault I was late for the meeting. Traffic was bad. It's not my fault I lost money. I got the stock tip from a friend. It's not my fault I don't have the skills for the job and I was laid off. They should have trained me. Most of the time, these kinds of things are your fault. And if you don't see that, you're going to continue to find yourself in these situations over and over again. You should have planned for traffic. You made a terrible investment and you have no idea what you're doing. Stop waiting for people to teach you the skills you need to earn a living and go learn them. Stop giving people 5K to 7K to train you to be a whatever it is that they're claiming that they're going to let you be, and go study. That's another part of the issue with the active being in this messed up position, because people don't even study anymore. People just want to go push the button over there and listen to these people talk BS instead of going and studying. When the passive mindset takes over, you say another phrase, I can't. Actually, yes, you can. You're just not willing to pay the price. Just like we talk about every Moor, anybody who's claiming that they're a Moor, they should have their 10,000 to 50,000 hours of studying under their belt before they even say they're going to go get a nationality card or whatever. Before they say they're going to go get some paperwork, they should have read the paperwork 500 million times before they even sent it out to these people. You're not willing to do the work or spend the time. You're not willing to do something hard. You're not willing to sacrifice what's needed. The passive mindset is defined by an attitude, an assumption that life happens to you and you're not responsible. People with this mindset also say things like, why does this always happen to me? When the language you use about things going on in your life is passive, you slowly convince yourself that nothing is your responsibility. This makes you feel good because it absolves you from responsibility. It means you don't have to look inside yourself and change anything. It means you're not in control. Well, I have news for you. You are in control. You're in control of how you respond to the ups and downs of life. You're in control of how you talk to yourself. An active attitude means ownership. You own your failures. An active mindset means you are responsible for the things you control. Sorry, I should have planned for traffic. I'll consider that next time. Wow, that investment blew up. I really don't know what I'm doing. Maybe I should learn. I got laid off because I didn't make myself indispensable. I won't let that happen again. The next time you catch yourself saying, I can't, say, I choose not to because. I choose not to go to the gym because. I choose not to learn something new because. I choose not to eat healthy because. It's not what you can't do. It's not that you can't do something. It's that unless you have literally done everything, you're choosing not to because. Stop lying to yourself. Own your choices. Own the process. Take control. This is where we have to be at as Moors. One, we have to be at the point where we gotta start take responsibility, stop blaming the colonists for everything as if the colonists is the reason. The reason that you got a ticket was because the color of law and whatever. No, the reason you got a ticket because the damn brake light was out. And then they stopped you. The reason why you got the ticket is because you went left instead of right. Because if you followed your intuition, it would have led you away from these people. But you're not following your intuition because you just went and drank some Starbucks or something like that because you just felt you needed that drink. You had to go to Starbucks to get your little whatever it is that you want. You had to go to that goofy store over there to go buy some BS that's not going to serve you, instead of you going and supporting the Moor over there who's selling the same stuff that this goofball store is selling. The reason why the judge looked at you funny and 730'd you or whatever is because you didn't even send in anything before you went there. You just thought that you saw some stuff on YouTube and you're just going to go in there and you're going to say whatever it, or some Moor over there told you, well, this is what you do when you go to court and all that stuff. And stuff doesn't work like that. Take some responsibility for what this really is. And what this really is, it's not about getting out of your nigger issues that you got yourself into. That's the last thing that this is about. The first thing this is about is uplifting fallen humanity. The second thing this is about is knowing your higher self and your lower self. Knowing your higher self and lower self. Forget all those other people out there and their higher self and their lower self. Don't worry about colonists and their lower self. Worry about your lower self. What are you doing to make sure that your lower self doesn't creep up and get you in situations? What are you doing to be in your higher self at all times so that you're vibrating on a certain frequency that lower energies don't even want to be where you're at? When's the last time you saged yourself? When's the last time you saged your surroundings? When's the last time you said Moorish American prayer and it wasn't on a holy day, or it wasn't at a temple meeting? There's certain things that we have to bring back in order for things to be balanced, because things aren't balanced right now. If you pull up 10 Moors and 9 Moors are telling you that they got court and 1 Moor is telling you that they got a business, we got issues. And that's not the colonists. That's us not seeing what this really is about and being sent in all these different directions with regard to what it means to be a Moor, and not for ourselves, right? Juali said, think and save yourself. Not think and go out there and tell people 5K to try to save them. Think and save yourself. Take control. Own the process of being Moors. Own the process of active, not passive. Own the choices that you make. Because there's only one way out. There's only one way out. And that's getting behind what Noble Juali laid down for us to get out of this fire that we're in. I yield the floor more.
No, I wanted to ask you a question. That piece that you was reading, was that also from Napoleon Hill's Keys to Success, or was that something else?
Yeah, that was something else. That was from some blog, FS blog, Active Mindset.
Okay, all right, bet that. It sounds like a lot of the same principles from Napoleon Hill's Keys to Success.
Yeah, I mean, it might be. You know, they could have took some stuff from it and created their little blog or whatever. I wouldn't doubt it, or that it's relative or something. Because nothing's new under the sun.
Nothing, and that's a major fact. So yeah, more. Yeah, I just wanted to ask you that. I know you was in the zone, but just to be clear about that, because I could have swore that was the same material I was listening to and reading. And I started reading it because I had the book for a while, and I started reading it. Then I started listening to the audio, and then the other day I was going in my drawer. And this joint literally, the tangible book, literally just fell off the countertop, like right into my hands. I can't even explain how ill it was. Not even ill, but just a sign. Like, I don't know what made it fall off the top shelf, but it fell right into my hand. Okay, yeah, that's another sign. So yeah, but I already know that this is mentalism. When we look at the 7 Hermetic principles. And I see how, philosophies come from that, all of them, whether they say it's the Bible, what not, it's all mentalism. So, yeah, bro, definitely. I feel like that aspect of it, just of civics and being active, just being in one realm, is limiting activity, and this is why a lot of us are not tapping into our own definite purpose in terms of what do we do besides politics, because people be in politics and whatnot, but there's a lot more to life and Moorish culture and heritage than just that. Not that is not important. That's very important, but there's so many other things that are just as, if not even more important. But again, I say, people feel like through these politics, there's an attack, and they feel like they have to fight back, right? And again, being active is so many levels to do that. You know what I mean? There's so many levels.
Oh, pardon the interjection, Mark. Pardon the interjection. And I don't want anybody to think that I'm saying don't go to court or don't stand up to highwaymen or anything like that. I'm not saying don't do any of that. I'm saying that has to be prioritized. Right? You know, there's an order of operations. And the order of operations that we're in right now is as if that is the main thing. Going to court, going to whatever. When no, saving the babies is the main thing. Uplifting the mothers is the main thing. Getting out of your lower self is the main thing. Right? But I yield. Islam.
Islam, indeed. Definitely. So yeah, like you said, it's more than that. Uplifting the babies. I mean, you know, if a man finds himself, you know, having children and he got to choose between ways to maneuver in this world, you know, versus his personal beliefs, which one comes first? Is it looking after his family, or is it, you know, keeping it true to himself, or what he believes? Like, at a certain point, your activity has to be selfless, right? Like, it's about a collective in a sense. But again, I also say this too, that like, even in the media, I feel like they promote this way. Like the media has done a number on all of us, social media, all of this, right? To the point where it's like, this is all they highlight Moors for, is being some sort of renegades against the law. But if they really highlighted us for our actual contributions to everyday society, the stuff that people don't get to see, just because, you know, it's regular stuff, right? Like, people are not walking around with cameras recording this, you know, civilized state of mind in society, right? Like, in the public. They're not highlighting that. They're highlighting incidents that are happening apparently often, and again, under color of law and whatnot. But it comes a point in time where it's like, all right, how do we survive, right, in this society, the way things are structured, right? It's either fight or flight. It's either flight or acquiescence. And when I say what they do with this media, they even have Moors speaking against Moors to a point of, you know, saying, oh, well, this is not what we Moors do. And I think it gets lost in the sense of people really trying to enforce their constitutionally protected rights because of the abuses they may have suffered for not being in their proper person, right? Like, you find out you wasn't in your proper person 35 years into your life, and now you want to make a change and do what's right for you and others. It's going to come with a lot. Like, you got a lot, you know, to deal with. It's not that you can't, but it's just like a lot. So like you said, what do people come into this for? Like, I don't think that people could really grasp what it is to be a Moor, right? Like, yes, you are a Moor by birthright, but the illustrious history, the magnanimous contributions to society, right? Forget a parking ticket or whatnot. Like, knowing that and knowing that you were Moor, like, and what Moors actually contributed to society, to the world, not just to a small section, like to the entire planet Earth, down to a pen that you might sign your checks with. You know what I mean? Like, all of these types of contributions to society, it's like they don't highlight this when they speak about Moors, right? They in modern day, they're trying to reclassify Moors who are born in America, which is why, according to Noble Ali, we're Moorish American, right? Like, because we're descendants of Moroccans born in America. But these modern day news channels, they're not highlighting that. They're not highlighting the fact that Moors contributed pens, mathematics, alphabets, language, society, to society, to the world. This is not what we get highlighted for. And again, it may be our modern day activity, but there's an illustrious history that fortifies, these concepts and these states of minds of different levels of confidence, of belonging, in the world, and belonging as far as being active, right? Because there's so many different blockages and divisiveness and, that tries to separate Moors, right? Free thinking, whether that be, oh, you don't believe in Jesus, so, you can't be a friend, you can't do none of that. And on the other hand, we're looking at it like, well, we honor all true and divine prophets. But if I give the same, reverence for so-called Jesus as I give to Muhammad, I'm not a God, acknowledging person. I'm not a child of God. Like, there's so many different ways, again, going back to being civilized and civics, that the works in the hands of evil, wicked people have divided us. Like, even back to the point of, the levels of activity. And I said earlier, some people might say, all right, well, the right to travel opposed to having a license is a fight I'm going to take. You know what I'm saying? Other people might say it's taxes or whatever it is, right? It all goes back to civics, but the history, understanding the history to understand it now, is what's most important in a sense, because we would know, all right, well, if we talk in civilization, people say religions are civilized. Okay. If that's the case, taxes was an idea of the Catholic Church. So if I'm going to be civil on a divine and national level and I'm not Catholic, then that ideology shouldn't apply. But it depends on what your state of mind is of being active, right? So there's so many levels. And I'm just saying the fact that when we really look at this, the information itself is what is the value. We ourselves are valued, but the information, knowing, ignorance will cost you a lot. So without knowing these things, like Cujo was saying, as far as studying, at least having 50,000 hours, yeah, it might really take you that long if you're cross-referencing and doing etymology and everything that you're supposed to do to research. You know what I'm saying? It'll take you a while to get through a book. One book. You know what I'm saying? And we're not taking our time on a whole to really study these things. It's more so the instant gratification of knowing or seeing a video. And there's nothing wrong with that. But what I'm saying is that, like, as far as the activity, when you tap into yourself, you're going to figure out your definite purpose. And when you figure that out, I believe that that's where people could begin their journey of being active and contributing to society and humanity. And, understanding that, because, like, again, I said, the way that media paints us, it's like, oh, all we do is get traffic tickets and, mess with on the side of the highway. When, again, they're not highlighting these things that we actually do and do on a regular basis. Is nothing to us. It's really nothing to us, but that good aspect of Moors and humanity, they won't highlight that. They only highlight police reports and whatnot. So, again, activity is on so many levels. It's on so many levels, and my main issue with all that's been going on in the past couple of weeks, they talk about Ye, Kyrie, whatnot, because they spoke about Jews. What they're trying to do to these brothers, we should have a similar alliance to whereas when they speak of Moors ill like that, it gets the pushback it deserves as well. Because it's not, Jewish is a religion. We know that Jew is a degree of knowledge. And like Kyrie said, if you know yourself, you really can't be anti-Semitic. But there's so many levels to being active. So whoever thought we see, I mean, I know Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, whatnot, but like whoever thought we see a level of activity on that stage of taking a stand, right? Like again, back to there's so many levels of activity, So yeah, I'm just saying as ill as they speak about Moors, the Southern Poverty Law Center, who are descendants of the Confederates who lost the Civil War, has something to say about Moors being free and acting according to the Constitution. Though they won't say it like that, these people are not a reliable source, right? And yes, it's true. There's issues with the right to travel and Moors being jammed in those situations, but I'm saying it's more to Moors than that. It's more to Moors than their extended infliction of color of law on us, which that's really the only thing they're trying to highlight. But the good thing that came about from all of that they did in the decade of, let's say, 2010 to 2019, is that they got exposed for who they were. January 6, 2020, I'll never forget. They're not going to flip this like Moors are some renegade sovereigns who, just to do anything, right? These Europeans were on the Capitol building lawn. Fam, please remember, they were out there with guillotines, right? Like, we could talk about misdemeanors and all that, and traffic and travel and all that, but these Europeans were on the Capitol building with guillotines out there, right? And, from certain perspectives, they'll say, well, constitutionally speaking, the penalty for treason is death. However you want to look at that. These Europeans were out there with guillotines. I've never seen Moors do that before. I haven't seen it. I'm not saying they didn't. I'm just saying I haven't seen that. So the rep that the media tries to give Moors, and they utilize Moors to do the same thing, is not always right and exact. And, we do have to look at ourselves, but at the same time, the rep they're trying to give us actually belongs to them in these days and times. Because, like, I never seen nothing more sovereign. First off, how you get on the Capitol building, how you drag that across a lawn, a guillotine, a whole stage guillotine across the lawn. But I don't hear them talking about all Europeans are sovereign citizens, right? But I do say that there's always room for improvement for us as a people, for us as individuals, but we definitely can't fall to these media ops either, because that's what it is. That's propaganda. Look what they did to the Jews. There was Moors and Jews who got expelled from Spain at the same time. At the same time, and let me clarify that there were Moors who were Jews, right? So when they speak ill on them and everybody's super sensitive, where's all these media members when they speak ill on Moors? Like, I'll never forget, and Cujo, you made me remember this. They aired this segment on ESPN. For all those on ESPN, as we talking about Kyrie and whatnot. Remember they aired that quick clip about the Moops, MOOPS?
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Like, they had a jersey.
Yeah.
Yeah, real talk. They had a jersey up there that said Moops while making mockery of Moors. And I'm like, well, where was ESPN with all these people then? Like, how y'all ain't say nothing about them making a mockery of Moors, the mothers and fathers of civilization, everything how you sign your check, all of that, the language, all of that. Ain't nobody on ESPN have nothing to say about that, but they got all the smoke for Kyrie. It's just certain things. When I say acting, is so many levels to activity and inactivity that, and I don't even know if you could find that. I got that on my old phone, that clip, but I don't know if it's still on YouTube, where they was talking about the Moops in 7-Eleven, like making mockery from that Seinfeld show.
Yeah. I think it's still up there. I think it's up there still. Yeah.
Yeah, so anybody on ESPN talking ill about Kyrie and didn't check that, I don't even want to hear from them. You feel me? Like, I don't really even care. Like, everybody got their perspective, but when it comes to quote unquote anti-Semitic, and they don't have no smoke for that clip, I don't really respect it, bro.
Yeah.
You know, the inactivity on those types of levels, you get to see who's who.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, more. That's how I view that. You know, like, damn, how dare y'all throw this brother under the bus on these networks that made a whole mockery of our ancestors as a collective, which goes to show the disconnect. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. I trust Kyrie doesn't have any regrets or nothing like that, but at the end of the day, if he looks back and does, you know, I'm just saying he should know he is standing on, you know, certain principles, and that what people have to say about him or anybody, you know, who is standing on truth to the best of their knowledge, like, you shouldn't even worry about that, because there's always going to be naysayers, there's always going to be nitpickers, right? And I'm saying that in conjunction with the fact that look at how they even try to nitpick my mom, bro. Like, I meant to mention that the last time we spoke about this.
Yeah.
His Mother Rise Mariah drinks coffee, smokes cigarettes, all this. I don't want to bring this up, but they brought that up. And I'm like, well, you know, growing coffee beans is a Moorish thing, right? like, there's articles about Moors in coffee that you do get research, right? Whether she did or didn't drink it, you know what I'm saying? Like, why are we villainizing shit that really isn't villain? You know what I'm saying? Like, tobacco is something that the indigenous people utilize.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we villainizing shit that we villainize? Like this isn't Moorish. Like, if I had a cup of coffee right now, I'm not a Moor no more.
Right.
Or I'm some sort of foul person because I had a cup of coffee, light and sweet or black or whatever you want to call it. I'm a foul person for that, really? I don't think so. You know what I mean? I definitely don't think so. You know, so.
And then just as just as you're talking about nitpicking, it's interesting how they're gonna throw Kyrie under the bus for posting a link, but they're not gonna throw Shaq under the bus for actually playing the movie in his movie theater. And nobody's bringing him up as being anti-Semitic or none of that. Like, why aren't they nitpicking at him? Like, what has he done? Whose ass has he kissed that he's not even mentioned as being anti-Semitic when he actually showed the movie? Kyrie just posted a link. That's it. They just posted a link. Didn't say anything. You know, people keep talking about, well, he said this and he said that. He didn't say anything. There were no words relative to him and this thing. Right? But you know, nobody saying nothing when Barkley kissed the ref. Nothing. When Shaq wore a dress and all that stuff, nobody got nothing to say. Charles Barkley wore a dress, nobody got nothing to say.
But that's the difference, right? Like, I look at it, yeah, even Barkley, he's wild for that. But I'll say this. Kyrie and Shaq are both from so-called Jersey, right? I don't know. I know for a fact, I don't know about Kyrie, but I know for a fact, Shaq is a free and accepted.
Yeah.
Listen to me. Not a free and accepted nation. Right? So they already know. Like, he has a certain protection that Kyrie may not have.
Mm-hmm.
right? Or run there to be protected. But they already know the game is that all of the religions are actually one. Whatever one you claim. Like, to even get in it, you have to have a belief in the higher power, right? Like, so they already know that all of this is ancient Moorish philosophy. Shaq know that. No way he don't, right? And I'm not dissing, I'm not, but I'm just saying there's no way he doesn't know that. Kyrie may not have been initiated in none. I don't know that either. But I'm saying one I do know, one I don't know. And the fact is, when you're standing on the truth and you're doing what you do, like, there's adversity that comes with that, because we're living in the times that is built on color. We're living in the times that are built on lies that have crumbled before our very eyes. And that's really what the COVID-19 thing was all about. Because as you were speaking of earlier, and I don't mean to jump around, when we talk about businesses and all of these things, we have to really understand the times we are in right now. And this was already prophesied by Noble Ali, who said that, one day the wheels industry are going to stop, and when they start back up, they're going to be in the favor of the Asiatics. If you didn't live through that time before, when the world wars and in the 40s and all of that, like, you're living it again right now. So it's those times again. It's that time again. But I'm just saying, I just feel like the fact that these same talking heads for these networks who are trying to act like Kyrie said something that is so egregious,
vile,
right?
Yeah.
But they literally had nothing to say about this mockery of Moors that they did on ESPN. Like, literally, specifically mocked Moors. 7-Eleven, instead of calling us Moors, Moors, they called us Moops, Moops, on ESPN, man. I don't want to hear nothing from none of them if they didn't have nothing to say about that. Or nobody else, really. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I think that it is definitely a bias, and it's not a balance, but, watch what you're watching. Just watch what you're watching. Watch how they playing it, right? None of those leagues or institutions have anything to say in defense of Moors for that. Yeah. And that was like 2018, 19, maybe 2020. Yeah. Maybe 2020. So yeah, more we see what's happening. And there has always been a game when it comes to us, Look at these quote unquote Nigers entertain us by competing against each other. And you see Moors in their lower self come on YouTube doing the same thing. They're studying everything, they're telling you about everybody, Tariq Nasheed, whoever, right? And I'm not saying people don't need to be called out, but I'm just saying, like, everything else but knowledge itself. So yeah, look at them. You know what I mean? And for the people who consume that and like it, and love it, it just shows where you at. You know what I mean? But the reality is, you need to be studying self. You can't tell me nothing about whoever else and what they did 20 years ago and all of this, unless it was egregious. I really don't care. You know what I'm saying? Because everything is subject to change. People too. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, more. I don't know. It's just so many levels when we talk about activity and where people misplace their energy. There's a lot of people who would love to debate about other people opposed to, showing how we could be our better selves, right? Like, this is what they commit to. And don't get me wrong, like, a lot of them need to be called out and, the warning signs and all of that. But I'm just saying that, like, at the end of the day, if you're doing 20 blogs, within 4 weeks about one person, that's not You know what I'm saying? That's not essential to me. But again, to a follower, it may be. Like, a follower may need to know what Joe Biden did last night. I really don't care. You know what I'm saying? Like, I really don't care. So, we know what we need to know about these people, and that's it. Like, we ain't got nothing to do with them. You know what I mean? In the aspect of what they're doing. Again, like I said, you know, going back to Biden and even taxes and all of that. Like, listen, the American Rescue Plan that they came up with, that wasn't no savior. That was digging more into people's pockets, because opposed to the $20,000 threshold that they say, you know, they wouldn't even check for that. Biden and them reduced it down to, if you made $600, you owe them something. Like, we could speak what we want about taxes. We know it came from the Catholics, but I'm saying that even with that, with it being in that format previously known, right? Like, now they're saying, we're not checking for you if you made over $20,000. We're checking for you if you made over $600. That was what was in the American. If you made $600, you owe us something. That's what they're saying, bro. Like, that is robbing from the poor, and that's President Biden's American Rescue Plan. So, you know what I mean? All of that is I don't know, all of it is color of law to me, you know, because it ain't get burst down to the people directly. It got burst down through corporate entities, cities, and got distributed to, you know, different businesses who applied for it. That wasn't rescuing America. That was rescuing businesses operating in America. That's it. And it didn't even save them. You know what I mean? Like, it didn't even save them, in a portion of America, not the whole America. But it didn't even save them. You know what I'm saying? More. So, yeah, there's a lot of levels to be active on economically, because there's so many conflicts of law. Not just color of law, there's conflicts of law. And without us knowing the law, we won't even see the conflict or raise the issue if need be raised. You know what I mean? And with that, I'm going to yield.
There's a lot more. Yeah, before we check the callers, I don't know if there's anybody there yet, but we can't talk about activity without talking about passivity, you know, because we have to have that balance. So this is from the blacksheepcommunity.com. 2 types of passivity. The essential check. Passive behavior can be characteristic of personality, character, creating a state of comfort. Here, you can consider such a position as a personality trait, yet it can be a state too. Passive behavior then is a way of being consciously chosen over a more active attitude for a certain amount of time for some reason. The following types of passive behavior are distinguished: a personality or character, a temporary state of being. In the first case, passive means a specific habit or personality trait that has become so familiar the person feels that it is the way he or she is. The person therefore cannot act, be, or communicate differently. Even though in essence there might be a possibility to change, the person does not perceive that option as a realistic option, nor would he know how to do it. In the second case, passive means a way of being due to conscious choice. There is a reason not to act for some time. This is the situation where the passivity is controlled by the conscious mind. When things change, or the person again knows what needs to be done, it is common that the state turns into the active back. Even though people might differ in opinion when a situation requires passivity or not, the main difference here is whether the passivity is present by choice. The person can turn it into an active state at will. The passive person refuses to be the creator of his own life voluntarily. He refuses to act independently in any situation. Not in Juali making reference, Moors are independent, right? A leader can also be too active. Imagine the action man not thinking, no time to reflect, never asks a question differently than how to make this work. The overactive leader definitely could benefit from the second type of passivity we described. The consciously chosen passivity allows leaders to rethink their vision and worldview, the kind of process that is hard to combine with activity. Also, not knowing mindset is essential to develop any kind of wisdom and requires passivity. That excellent form of passivity slows down the mind and creates space to rethink one's thinking because it is not engaged in any activity or the consideration of any activity. So the consciously chosen passivity is healthy because it is free. Moreover, it allows them to develop some wisdom too. Do you feel that your activity passivity balance could do some improvement? Might you be holding back? Or are you a more passive than healthy for you? Or rather, too much action, too much result orientated, sure whether it is aligned with the right person, with the right purpose? In both cases, as long as you are willing to work on that balance, you might consider joining a community and find other forward thinkers from all around the globe to help you get it going for you, both wisdom and impact. So, yes, all Moors are active, not passive, but don't be too active in your activity, because in being overactive, you're not allowing yourself to embrace the passive side that is going to allow you to gain wisdom. So you could put this in the context of these same situations where we're looking at to be a Moor means you got to go to court, you got to fight the highwayman, you got to do this. And then you're constantly going through this thing. 5 years goes by and case went nowhere. All they did was just adjourn. All they did was adjourn. All they did was adjourn for 5 years. And the wisdom hasn't sunk in because these people know these realms. They know how to get you to invoke inner passivity that, you keep doing the same thing over and over again, which you already know. If you're expecting some result from doing the same thing over and over and over again that brings no result, you're insane. And then now it's on you again. And it's not even on the colonists at this point. And they know how to get our people in these realms. The same way that they have all these people going against Ye and Kanye and Kyrie, going against them when they're actually telling you what's up. They're actually telling you. It's like I was watching what's that dude's name? One of these Europeans with their little show, and he's talking about how come nobody's bringing up Kanye's trainer who tried to drug him to death, and how come there's no inquiry into this trainer guy in the open saying that he's going to make this man a zombie if he doesn't shut the hell up. If he doesn't stop saying certain things, We're going to put you back on the drugs again and all that stuff. That's criminal. But there's no bringing that up because the people have been coerced. The people have been brought into a realm of inner passivity. They've been forced to be so passive that in the face of injustice, they do nothing, say nothing, have no opinion. They just let injustice happen, which is, the flip side of it's good that there are Moors, because the only people who seems to be standing up for some injustice right now are people with nationalities. It's only the nations that you see when they protest, the whole country is going to go protest, and they have one flag out there. There's not 500 different banners and placards and marching and picketing with 50 different reasons. Everybody's out there for one thing with one flag. Just go check all the nations that protest. Right? There was a big one in Brazil the other day. Pretty much the whole country's out there. Why are all of them out there for this cause? Because all of them understand the lesson that Drew Ali was trying to give to the Moors 100 years ago, that this still hasn't sunk in with our people. People are still out to lunch. Still. And everybody around them is doing exactly what Noble Drew Ali told Moors to do since the 1920s. Everybody around them, even down to the Mennonites. Even down to the Mennonites, who they're colonists. They're not indigenous to this land or anything like that, but they're actually exercising more indigenous stuff than Moors are exercising. The Moors been here. And then the Mennonites aren't getting any issues from highwaymen and all that stuff. They could go with their horse and buggy and carriage, and they're not getting no tickets. They don't have to go to court or anything like that. Why? Because they're unified. If you mess with one of them, you mess with all of them. And they don't play, you're going to mess with one of theirs and have issues. But they also don't play with people on their side who are trying to undermine them. They get rid of those people. So all of this is to say that we just have to realize that we have to realize that there's work to do as Moors. And the work that we have to do is expanded beyond just going to court and dealing with highwaymen and all that. Way more than that. The activity can be on so many different levels. It was like one of the brothers out here, Ghanaian brother, called me last week that he realizes now what I've been talking about all these years with our people and the issues of our people, because he's an electrician and he's going around to all the black groups and he's trying to tell them, well, let me talk to the youth about going into trades, because they don't stand a chance going to school to go learn something that they think they're going to get a job with a degree. It ain't happening. Those days are over. These youth need to have a trade right now. Nah, they don't want to hear that. They want their children to go to university and get degrees and all this.
Bro.
Madness.
You are speaking the absolute truth. Yeah, absolute truth. And Noble Drew Ali said, the longer he stays in the schools, the more he'll defend jumping through the hoop. But bro, you posted something on Instagram the other day. There was this lady, I'm not sure if it was in Canaanland or below the fictitious border or whatnot. But you posted this, I think you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
The lady who was reading the book.
Yep.
They were given to her children.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. Like, I can't believe, I mean, I can believe it, but damn.
Yeah,
bro.
but I can't believe it.
Every year. This is getting worse every year, bro. When I seen that, I was like, damn. What? No way. No way. If that's the curriculum, should nobody be sending their children to school right now? Like, if that really is the curriculum, and like, they shouldn't. And I've seen this popping up lately, especially for so-called New York and New Jersey, that there's been a lot of schools who've lost students since the pandemic, you know, and because of that, you know, some of these schools are not really, you know, there's no point in them operating in a certain capacity in the flesh at the brick and mortar. You know, again, shout out to the chat, everybody in the chat. I just think that, teachers are resigning. Bro, there's a sister who was a teacher in so-called New Jersey. Sister's shape is beautiful. They tried to get her fired because she was too curvy, right? I believe her national. No, real talk. They tried to get her fired. Y'all could Google that. You know, NJ teacher, they called for her resignation because she was thick, bro. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like they're worried about the wrong things.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because, she was an art teacher, to your point of the beauty of art. Mm-hmm. And according to the Library of Congress, nature is the art of God, right? Like, so we see these beings in the flesh. You know what I'm saying? But nonetheless, that's what they were trying to get her fired for. She was thick. You know, but at the same time, in these schools, what is the curriculum? What are they teaching? Now, again, she was an art teacher, but I'm saying that the fact that the whole school curriculum is trash anyway, instead of them targeting her because she's curvy, as they say, you know what I'm saying? Like, they need to be targeting these curriculums. Yeah. No matter who's teaching it. As flat as a toothpick or, you know, thick as a cheeseburger. It doesn't matter. They need to be looking at the curriculum and what's being taught. Mm-hmm. And that's what matters most. You know what I'm saying? That's what matters most. So, it just goes to show the priorities, again, back to what you were saying, are wrong in the activity. Like, people take activity and what they get active in is counterproductive, right? Like, it's counterproductive, even though they're being active in it. You know what I mean? Like, it's nothing good coming out of it. So, more. I'm gonna deal right there.
Islam more. Was there anybody in the call queue?
There's people tuned in, but nobody with their hand up. Right. So, you know, I guess there's for now.
Islam.
Continue on, or we can end it on this note, or we can continue. Either way, if nobody has any questions, all is well. Either way, you know.
I was just gonna add with regard to the lady speaking about the books and all that. Going back to the same thing about the inner passivity, you know, that they're gonna have all these issues because Kanye posted some stuff, but nobody has anything to say about them books being in their children's school with porn in it and gay porn and whatever else, trans porn and whatever in there. They have nothing to say about that, you know, and it just goes to show how, you know, the people have gone from being civilized to being some barbarians. You know, they've slipped drastically. And Drew Ali told these Moors, if you slip, you better tie your shoes up and all that. You better stop playing around. And that was the 20s. So us seeing where it is now and where it's going should be a wake-up call for our people. It should be a wake-up call, you know, and them to recognize that you better have your psychological defenses, and you better be training your children about self-knowledge and enhancing that self-knowledge so that they can empower their intelligence and wisdom, because this stuff is not going in a good direction, especially for our people. Because remember, majority of other people, they have a nationality. If stuff gets too crazy, they got their own school that they can go to. If stuff gets too nuts, they can pull their children out and send them to their own school, their nation's school. Right? So don't be naive and thinking about all we have to do is change the teacher and change the principal and stuff's gonna be better or whatever like that. Don't be naive. It's supposed to been wake up time for our people. Right?
Word. Hey, bro, I don't want to cut your wisdom.
Oh, go ahead,
but
Mark.
we do have another caller. We got another caller from Canaanland.
Islam.
Acknowledgement to 416-418. Peace, more. You with us?
Islam, more. What's up?
Islam, more.
Big BS, you don't know. I'm honored to be on, with the brothers, with the bros, my bad. Sons of Allah.
Honors to you, more.
Y'all touched on a lot of topics, but we need to step forward with more unity and more love, more understanding.
Facts.
Me too, because I'm quick to, based on the knowledge that I know now, I'm quick to snap on a ninja for being a ninja. And, it's really not fair, because, Allah woke me up. Everybody is a fruit on the tree that's ripening at their own time. And but the activeness and the passiveness, there should be a balance, because you're always active, yet when are you stopping to reflect and learn, and study? So, but one of the problems for Moors is right to travel, because to get, even with the rise of the Moor situation, like their first beef was the tags or the plates is off and this and that. Somebody don't have a driver's license and all this stuff. So, which led to ex parte and stuff. So, but the nations of the world, they're going to take advantage as much as they can, until we actually, fall in line. Everybody has an ego, because, Jamal says, study, that it's about thinking, the thinkers. But it's also about honoring who came before us, and honoring, and, if your brother that's from your mother, if he was first in line, if he's older than you, that's something that you, like, physically, in the flesh,
that's something that you can't change, you know. So that's been a major thing with that I see with more is when they learn something, they want to run off and do their own thing, like not be patient, you know, not sit at the masters, you know, master teachers' feet, and you know, true humbleness is the so-called family. You know, give thanks, honored for y'all to keep keeping up the good work, putting in work for what is this 11 years now, 10 years, 10 cycles. My apology if I'm off with the numbers, but you know, time is amazing.
Mm-hmm. It didn't go by so fast. It's been about what? Yeah, 8 years, 9, going on 9.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think we can upgrade some things, man, because I don't know. I mean, I know y'all know the effects of how it was when the pandemic hit. You know, some people just didn't. It was like nothing, but then it was like only something because there was limited access and adjustments that had to be made as far as how you can move, how you can't. You know, but yeah, man, coming up on 10 years, you know, definitely there's a lot of transformations to be made and adjustments to be made. And this has been a great experience, man. I appreciate what all of you are doing, Canaanland. You know what I mean? Especially the music, because our music is definitely harder than a lot of this stuff that they putting out now and getting rotations and air spins and stuff like that. So again, back to y'all personal initiative, I just want to take a moment to say, like, even for over 9-10 years, y'all been doing the thing. And I definitely have a reverence for y'all penmanship and what y'all give us in music. And when I say that, I mean all the Moors, but specifically all you Moors up in Canaanland doing what y'all do on a collaborative effort and example. Because I feel like, you know, sometimes y'all may not get enough props. People be dissing y'all in the so-called lower 48, dissing us as well, whatever. We all the same, but you know, as far as what y'all doing, as far as activity, I just want y'all all to know, and I know y'all all not on the line, but I do appreciate y'all penmanship, because a lot of people is not going to say that, and it's been a great sin to have access to y'all lyricism and vibe, you know what I'm saying? Y'all produce everything. So yeah, definitely, when we talk about activity, I'm sure y'all have, you know, daily, regular lives to live, but the fact that y'all take y'all time out and give us something, you know, on an MC level, like, that can't be overlooked as great activity as well. Mm-hmm. So again, back to so many levels of being active. Cujo, definitely, absolutely, all of you all, you know, have been an example of activity. If nobody said that, I just want to say that, yo, I see y'all, man, on that level. So, yeah, peace to you all, Moors, for being active as you all are on many different levels, I'm sure. But definitely the penmanship. Definitely want to let y'all know that.
Islam. Iron Sheik's on a whole nother level. You know what I'm saying? Islam for the inspiration and Yasin as well. Wasn't for them too, like I would have gave up a long time. I would have quit this thing because, you know, on the VLK level, it was just, you know, the criminals per se, they ran up in the hip hop game and, you know, you had a criminal busting guns, killing people and stuff. You're not getting on. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, it turned out that, you know, they're wearing dresses and stuff, but I don't want to get into all that. But
It's all
I
more.
fall back to the floor. Keep up the great work. Honest to you. Honest to all the Moors that's listening right now. I love y'all, yo.
It's all more.
It's fun.
Facts.
Islam, that's peace, bro. Likewise. So for sure, you believe that there, again, can't be acknowledged enough what y'all doing as far as activity. I mean, I think people are more interested in the gossip, bro.
Yeah.
Like they're more interested in the gossip opposed to the true work in the art format. You know what I mean? And I think it's indicative of a lack of really possessing the culture. People are searching and they stop past this, and then later they like, oh no, this isn't for me, or whatever the case may be. You know what I mean? But we know, like again, you asked earlier, why are people coming into this? And I was saying, like, yo, on the real, you can't really respect this without respecting the history of Moors if you're going to actually claim to be one. Though you are one, whether you claim to be one or not, when you understand our illustrious, magnanimous history, it makes it hits different, because what they're trying to portray us as today, as far as just being some sovereign citizens on the side of the road and catching smoke with the police and all of that, that's not really what it is, when we claim that. But, it's a new era of time, and some people don't live it. They only get to see it on YouTube and what's being presented through that format. And there's nothing wrong with that, but when you don't live it and you're just perceiving it, it can be different. Like, for myself, I came into this information, pre-teen, teenage years. So for me, it wasn't like, oh, let me get out of this. Like, no, my mother has been on this for a minute. And by default, I was enlightened to this. I was exposed to this. So, and I'm not saying I've done everything correct and didn't make mistakes in life in general. I'm just saying, like, I didn't have no ulterior motives as far as getting involved with Moorish history, heritage, information, like by default. You know what I'm saying? I was exposed to this, and I love it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I love it. There is no, there's no, for my studies, being in my 30s now and being exposed to this in my pre-teens, teens, like, it's almost like there's not a piece of society that I can't recognize as being Moorish, right?
Mm.
Like, Moorish footprint on every part of society is real. And I can see it. There's some things I may be exposed to later in life, but I do know that majority of these things that we deal with come from Moors, whether it be building, architecture, again, talking about being active. There's Moors who are acquiring land, acres, pure acres of land, with nothing on it. But then, what's the activity that comes with that? Is it gardening? Is it building structures?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, is it architect? Like, there's so many levels, again, that we could be active on. And of course, that goes with being able-bodied. But what I'm saying is, again, back to, activity of Moors and what is active versus passive. If you do have, acre, multiple acres of land, what portion is set aside to, grow and feed, if not the whole community, some members, like, can contribute something in some way, right? Like, there's levels, so many levels of being active versus passive, Like, there's people in the inner cities who are surrounded by concrete and just wish it was just one patch of land that they could grow some food on. But then there's people in other parts of the planet, not far from the cities, where the land is accessible to plant seeds, right? And feed people. So again, like there's just so many levels to be active on versus passive on. But I think we need to really, really examine all of that, you know? And don't think that just a YouTube video with somebody trying to dissect another person's character is all the activity there is when it comes to Moors. Don't let the media spin it like because Moors are taking a political stance on the right to travel. Like, all right, so let's say somebody owns a car, right? Like their name is on the title, whatever. This is just basic civics, right? They own that property. That is their property, right? Like it's recognized as, you know, their property on every level, on multiple levels. Let's just say that on multiple levels. But behind the scenes, they can say, well, no, the state owns your car because they gave you the title in the first place. All right, whatever. But let's say there's someone who has a commercial driver's license. Their license might mean something different, right? Like if I own this car, it's on record that this is the title's in my name or whatever, it's my property, right? So whether my license is valid or not, it's known not to operate this because this is my property, right? That's a different angle than someone who drives for a living, like, again, a CDL or a limousine driver or Uber or Lyft driver. Like, the license might mean something different to them than it does for somebody who is using their property in a private capacity, right? But when you use it in a public capacity, there may be different rules and regulations. So, you know, again, I think that the activity has to really be recognized and sorted out to private versus public. What type of activity route are you taking for the benefit of humanity? Right? Like, so passively, if I say, yo, I love humanity, but I'm not doing Uber to pick up people. I'm not active in that way. All right, so now you're just utilizing your private property. But if you feel like, well, look, my private property could be utilized for public use, then there's certain aspects that are expected, right, for the public. It's not about your private right or wrong. It's just like, in these days and times, a certain public, I don't want to say standard, but expectation, right? So, yeah, these things, these instruments, all of it, it's going to mean something different to different people. But at the end of this day, like, we're still all people. It's just we move through life in different perspectives and different aspects. So, yeah, I would say, like, you know, the aspects of being active, there can be, you know, the contrast of public versus private. You know, and we definitely gotta accept and respect that. So yeah, more for the time being, that's really all I have to say for now. I know it's 11:08. We got about like 52 minutes if we're gonna go on, but we do not have any callers with their hands up. We have callers, but no one with any questions. If there's anything you want to add on in closing, we can get to that and keep it moving.
It's a lot more. Yeah, I just, you know, just in closing, just to reiterate that theme of the night, you know, that
peace. Okay.
Peace more.
All right.
Oh, you hear me?
Yeah. I trust all is well, Cujo.
Yeah, all is well, more. All is well. Yeah. All is well.
Not, I'm just gonna throw this out there before we close out. Oh no, you know what? It's past 11, so at this point, people can't call in on the blog talk. But yeah, for sure. So, Cujo, you there, bro?
Yeah, more.
Before we close out, I just want to make sure you're good.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah, just you know, honors to you again, honors to the mothers for having the platform for us to be able to do our Sons of Allah thing.
I'll give it a few minutes and whatnot. But yeah, so as far as our activity, as far as if we're gonna look at it in the aspect of you know, our only savior is ourselves. We have to also understand different aspects and principles of life as far as being active, and the fact that one of the realest things I ever heard is that personal initiative creates work, you know, and procrastination is the enemy of progress, right? So first you got to take the personal initiative and do your work, but procrastinating on it, this is what cancels out progress. You know, you just got to do what you do and just do it. Oh, word. Peace, more. I see. I don't know if, I see you put that in the chat, but I'm not sure if you're there on the line, bro. Yeah, and shout out to Carrie Lloyd L. He's 1111. Yeah. So, yeah. Kuja says he thinks he's muted.
Unmuted.
Peace, more. You can you hit? Are you there now?
Peace, more.
Oh man, pardon me. That was my fault.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Pardon.
Yeah, 1111 to all the Moors out there. Honors. Yeah, I was just closing out saying honors to the platform for allowing us to do our Sons of Allah, and honors to you. You know what I mean? We got this as usual. You know, always bringing in the holy day with a good build. Happy holy day to all the Moors, and honors to the Prophet Noble Jew Ali. Oh, you there, Miz?
Peace.
Oh yeah, all right, Islam, peace.
Yeah, I'm backed out. I had to put my code in and whatnot. But yeah, for sure, definitely, always on the holy day. I mean, on the eve of the holy day. But you know, we right there, and I think that on this one, you know, we're gonna let the people breathe and bring it in on their own. But also, you know, I appreciate the energy we contributed this night. I know we don't quote unquote celebrate Thanksgiving, but more is keep in mind, you know, it's a new moon coming up next Wednesday, the eve of so-called Thanksgiving. So whatever it is you believe in and want to manifest, do in fact and indeed keep that in mind. You know what I mean? Yeah, there's a reason why in Islamic culture there's a crescent in the star, right? Like from what we know. So yeah, that new moon, you know, that's coming up. Make sure you manifest and do what you need to do for you, not just for everybody else, for you. Because you can't help anybody choose, right? So those are the days and times we're in, and yeah, definitely Wednesday. Yep. Shout out to the chat. And yeah, you know what I mean? Just make sure you stay in tune with the days and the times and the divine. And no matter what happens, up or down, remember it could all come back around and always make things better for yourself. But again, that's going to require personal initiative, and it's definitely going to require being active in some way or form. And the activity can come on so many levels of you just making changes in your own personal life, right? Opposed to everything external. Like, this type of activity can come from within to whereas you better your conditions without. So yeah, more. I just want to say that in closing, I do appreciate you, bro. You know, you've been putting it in for a while, and there's much more to discuss, and we will do that. But for tonight, we're going to give on the level of some more MC music, more by Sons, and I can't say enough how I appreciate y'all for putting in y'all activity. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, peace, more. Appreciate the bill as always. All right.
Islam.
Read off the pay every day. Uplift the beat cause we all pay. We enforce the law and we obey. Our fathers from before it till today. Reading my Quran and my Torah. Universal laws in moray. Read 4 chapters, receive it 4 ways. Great divine love rules our first. Before I circle blocks, man, I circle 7s first. You bust the image, but your rhymes hurt. Declare 13 disrespected earth. But it's all in God's plan. Today's mathematics don't judge man. Unity of life, embodiment of truth. I'm responsible for every deed cause I've seen the proof. No but true. Hey, you have to draw it out for you. Cause nationality is not a color I can use. Jerry Screw, standing on my prayer, even without shoes. On the highest authority, spirit of blue. Marcus Coffee, whirlwind times 2. The world's in the wind when the trumpet blew. Stand up, go into your bathroom. You got a big floor to ceiling, cut the light on it, and take a good hard look at yourself. You are the worst government. You know, and it took me a long time to get to understand that concept. I don't law and master. If I can govern myself, if I can govern my household, that's what I should be doing. Why should I walk out of my door and leave everything that I know about myself in the house to go out and adopt something that I have no knowledge of? So we need to stop asking that question. I ask myself this question. If not me, then who?
Death and wisdom, my friends, intelligent creatures, guardians of sacred knowledge, making features, secrets of the afterlife, manifest the present day. Dirty mortals and scoundrels lose their heads in a pleasant way. Deceit and deception, negative past thoughts, keep the awareness on point. Spirit messages never off. Inner realization, encounter the higher selves, explain existence, explain my consistence. Without a foe, they never know, so fast, most resistant. Divinity, my twin flame, side chick and mistress, metaphysics, Kabbalistic, Kamarot mystic, patriarch, statistic, make my thoughts sadistic, so indigenous, call me Americanistic, invoking the ancestors, Saracen cryptic, suns on rotation, flows eclectic, shatter all illusions, reveal the realistic, sitting in the dark, holding the light marvelous, recognize the artifice, skin so carbonous, hair so antenna, I feel them from Vienna, myriad of virtues, lessons, and reptilian henna, enlightenment seekers won't find it in mainstream, focus as a laser, stay balanced like a beam, not even a gymnast, whenever I flip this, as above so below, get out when within this, don't think I'm a slave cause I speak in English, true I need the water, watch your flame get extinguished, living in your higher lower self is relinquished, reputation of master teachers,